Hello everyone. And here lately, I've had tons of emails, people wanting to get into shrimp, how to start a shrimp tank, and everything they need to know. So I thought it was time to do another beginner basics, the essentials for shrimp keeping video. So I have gone through and I've made a list of the top things you need to worry about to successfully keep cherry shrimp neocaridina. All right. So let's go through the list here. And we'll touch on each topic as we go through the video. First of all, we need a cycled aquarium. Got my list down here. Then we'll talk about the water, the requirements. It's easy with Neos. Don't get ate. Shrimp are a lot of things. We'll eat them. A natural habitat. Now, by natural, I don't mean pristine. I get a lot of comments about that. I'll explain what that means. And then maintenance. You can set everything up right at the beginning. And if you screw it up by not doing the things you need to do, months down the road, it'll crash. So let's dive into it. So let's talk about the first thing, and that's having a cycled aquarium. So, that is like the most important thing. That's not just with shrimp, that's with all the aquarium hobby. Fish, anything. You got to have a cycled aquarium or you're going to have a bad time. So, there's literally countless ways that you can cycle an aquarium. You can ghost feed. I've done that before. You can add ammonia. You can add an already established filter from another tank that's healthy. You can take a sponge, a dirty sponge filter, and squeeze all that yuckiness in there. Or I guess I should say how I do things now, and I find it easier, is stability. Now, everyone asks me, how do I do that? Well, I'm going to read you the instructions. Let me pull out the old man readers. Actually, they're bifocals, but I really need them for the reading part. All right, directions. Shake well before use. Turn off UV ozone. You don't want the ozone or the UV light. That'll kill the bacteria that are in the water. Use one capful for each 40 liters, 10 US gallons, on the first day with the new aquarium. Then use one capful for each 80 liters, 20 US gallons daily for 7 days. Fish and other aquatic species may be introduced at any time as long as dosage is maintained for 7 days. For optimum biofilter performance, use one capful for each 20 US gallons or 80 liters once a month with each water change and whenever introducing new fish or whenever medicating an aquarium. So, take these off. Now, the process I use is I do the first week, like it says. Then I add just a handful of shrimp. Now, if you're setting up a new tank and you don't have shrimp, that's kind of going to be a problem. So maybe you have another tank. Maybe you could put in a couple male guppies, a couple fish, maybe some snails. But some people don't like snails. I don't mind them. So, and then you put in just a tiny, tiny bit of food after you've done this. Plant your tank, set it up, do everything you're going to do. Set your filter, run everything. Add this. And then, just as I just read on the instructions, and then you just feed a little bit for a couple months, just enough to keep it going. And then after you are about 2.5, 3 months in, then more than likely your tank is going to be fully cycled. This stuff keeps it safe. I used to see a bunch of people rave about this, and I didn't really believe it. So this summer, I needed to cycle a bunch of tanks really quick. I gave it a go, and it did good. So that's not just for shrimp tanks. That's for all aquariums. You got to be cycled. Shrimp are really sensitive to ammonia. And so ammonia in your shrimp aquarium is going to be a really, really bad time. So we need to have a fully cycled aquarium. Now, I would say the next most important thing is your water. Now, with Neocaridina, aka cherry shrimp, that is not entirely a big worry. Now, I found after helping all the people I help, I'd say maybe like 10% have troubles with their own tap water. Now, I use all my tap water. All my Neo tanks have tap water. Now, I do have a Caridina tank that I use RODI, and that makes things a little more difficult, but not too bad. So, more times than not with Neos, they can adapt to almost anything, but the most important thing is keeping it the same. Like, you need to make sure your water supply is steady. Now, if you don't have a steady water supply, then you're going to need to test it and be aware of that. Test your tank, test the water that's going in before. Now, with me, I'm lucky. I have hard tap water that's pumped from the ground. And so my water never really changes. It's always in the same like 10 to 20 TDS range. So I don't have a lot to worry about. And we'll get back into the maintenance part of it. But some people, now there's a lot of people that know a lot of stuff about aquariums, but they're new to shrimp. And so you need to realize that there's not just water. This isn't just liquid water. There are all kinds of minerals dissolved in your water. And that's what we're talking about. And so it's not having perfect parameters, it's having the right ratio of calcium and magnesium and stuff that the shrimps need to molt. Now that's why that's important with shrimp, because shrimp have an exoskeleton. Every time they grow a little bit, they got to shed their skin and form a new one. And they need certain minerals in the water and in a certain ratio to make that happen. So if you're one of those people that you think you've done everything right and you're just not having luck, I had a good friend. He could barely keep shrimp going. And he moved to a different place, new water. But even then, it was still mostly looked like the same. When you did a test, the water still looked the same. Pretty close. And he went from barely even being able to keep a colony going to having thousands of shrimp in all his tanks. So that can be the limiting factor. That can be the limiting factor. Now, here is another thing. Don't get ate. Don't get ate. Shrimp are tiny, grown up shrimp. Breeding age shrimp are like that big. And baby shrimp are like that big. Anything that can fit in their mouth will eat them. They'll get ate. So I realize some people now, if you're watching this, you might be a shrimp fanatic like I am. And you may not want any fish at all in your shrimp tank. Like, I always have shrimp in my fish tanks. That makes sense. But I never have fish in my shrimp tanks. So let's see if I said that right. There's always shrimp in my fish tanks. Well, my fish tanks are just guppy tanks. Now, guppies will eat a lot of baby shrimp. And some will even pick apart and kill grown shrimp. Eat them. But not too often. So, you really don't want any fish at all now. See, I know bristlenose plecos, they are 100% shrimp safe. I've even seen a dead shrimp get mouthed by a bristlenose pleco going through on the bottom. There happened to be a dead shrimp in a tank. He put the shrimp in his mouth, spit it out, and kept going. He don't want no part of that. They're vegetarians. Now, other plecos, not so much. I think little sucker mouth fish like ottos and stuff are good to go too. But bigger plecos, common plecos, and there are some plecos that like to eat meat. So I know bristlenose plecos are good, but the problem with those is a lot of people are doing shrimp tanks in like 10-gallon tanks and smaller. With a bristlenose, even just one, you really need at least a 20-gallon tank. So keep that in mind if you're looking for tank mates. But just remember, lots of stuff eats shrimp. Any fish almost will eat shrimp. So you don't want your shrimp to get ate. And if the shrimp are always worrying about being predated on, they're worrying about getting ate. They ain't going to be out chilling. They ain't going to be out doing their thing. They're going to be hiding. Oh my God, please don't eat me. They're not going to enjoy life. They're going to be in constant fear of getting ate. I guess like they are in the nature, but we're not doing nature. We're doing cool planet tanks. So when it comes to our tanks, we want a natural planet tank. And shrimp love surface area. You see all this moss. See all this moss. All the little branches, all the little nooks and crannies. That's all space for shrimp to graze on. Now, I actually get a lot of comments saying, oh my God, shrimp need clean water. Shrimp need clean tanks. Please do that. This one person said, your tanks are filthy. Shrimp need clean, pristine water. What are you doing? Please do that. Oh, your shrimp. Oh my God, I'm worried about them. No, natural habitats is what shrimp thrive in. Now, there are lots and lots of ways to keep your shrimp. Lots and lots of ways to keep your shrimp. But, you know, it's like I figured out how to make shrimp and how to breed shrimp. So you got to keep that in mind when I show you all my shrimp and all my videos. I put a little bit of effort into trying to making them look nice. But I'm here to breed lots of shrimp. So everything is optimized for increasing shrimp numbers. Keep that in mind. So when it comes, you don't want, so I don't have rocks in my tank. I don't have sticks and stuff. Most of my tanks are just inert sand or rocks, gravel, just regular sand or gravel, and moss. Now, a lot of plants have some stem plants. We got some anubias right there. I try to add a little bit of touch to it, but really, when you're doing what I'm doing, all you need is, with Neos, all you need is inert gravel or sand. Preferably what looks best. And in my case, I think black sand looks the best on most shrimp. So that's what I go with. But it's really a personal preference, really. As long as it's inert. By inert, I mean it does not dissolve into the water. It does not change the chemical properties of the water. It does not alter the pH of the water. And the best thing about that is cheap. Now, for Caridina tanks and the harder shrimp that need different varying pH ranges and buffers and RO pristine water, that's a whole other story. And that stuff is way expensive. With Neos, you just get the easy, cheap stuff. Don't worry about spending all this money on all the different shrimp stuff out there. If you're just keeping Neos, it's easy. It really is. As long as you follow these basic steps I'm sharing in this video, it's super easy. So, let's cover maintenance. Now, there's lots of varying opinions here, and They all can work. However, you need to know all the facts and understand the basic principles of why we do what we do. So, in my Neo tanks, the tanks I just use tap water in, I'm doing 20 to 50% water changes every single week, every week, because I reliably know that the water coming out of my sink is pretty much the same as the water in the tank. So it does not affect the shrimp. Now, I do have a little bit of chloramines in my water, so I use safe. So when I come through and do on my water change day, I've been doing every Monday here lately, I will suck out, see, about to here on this tank. I'll suck out about that much water on this particular tank, put in a little bit of safe, and as fast as get the temperature right on my sink, hook a hose up, run the hose in here, and top it off. It's that easy. It really is. Now, the confusion here is even people who have had fish for years and years and years and are very accustomed to most aquarium stuff, they don't realize that evaporation and feeding and various things are going to alter the minerals in your water, I should say. The minerals in your water. So one of the biggest problems I have in helping people out with their shrimp tanks is a lot of people see all this no water change stuff, and my Caridina tank, I do like a water change like every 4 months. So it's a completely different style. Caridinas are a completely different ball game. They do it completely different style of keeping than Neos are. With Neos, you feed a whole Neos for me. I feed a whole bunch, so I change a bunch of water. I have people asking me, I don't do a lot of water changes. Do I need to feed more to get more shrimp? And the answer is you can't. You don't do water changes and you feed a whole lot more, you're going to have a problem. And then another reason, the water change thing, no water change thing, and you need to understand why and how, is if you're doing these water changes, or if you're just topping off with tap water, that means the water evaporates out the tank. You add in more tap water with lots of minerals. That means the minerals in the tank are going to get higher and higher and higher and higher over time. So if all you're doing is topping off the tap water, you're eventually going to have a tank crash. That might be, usually happens in about a year. Some people 6 months to a year. It's like, oh, my shrimp just died. Like, are you doing water changes? No. I was like, well, what are you doing about evaporation? Just topping off. So that happens way, way more because, oh, I don't have to do a water change. So they don't know. That's why I'm here to try to help you guys understand this. Is you add the water evaporates, the minerals don't. So if you keep adding more water with minerals in it, you're going to have a disaster. So if you're just topping off, if you're doing the no water change route, which that's fine and good. That's fine. You don't have to do water changes, even Neos. But you got to feed like just one little bit once a week. And any evaporation you have to replace with RODI water or distilled water. You need to be replacing out evaporated water with a TDS of 0. Now, I still think you need to do a water change every great once in a while. Your plants will like it. Some people ask me, how are your plants, how's your moss going so good? It's like, well, I have hard water with lots of minerals, and I feed a lot. So the NPK is taken care of. The fertilizer, that's the nitrates. The phosphates and the potassium, that's in the feed. And the shrimp poop, pleco poop, that's the ammonia part of what the plants need. And then the minerals, my super hard water has everything it needs. So, and I'm always sucking water out, putting more water in, full of fresh minerals. That's how the plants do so good in my tanks. I'm not fertilizing. I'm not doing anything. I feed a lot and have hard water. That's all there is to that. So let's close this. And I'll tell you, if I was setting up a brand new tank today, I would do it. I would put in, the first thing I would do is I would put in black diamond blasting sand, the same substrate as in this tank here. And then I would put in just a simple sponge filter. Just a simple sponge filter. That's all you need. Air pump and sponge filter. That's it. Now, if you're going to put in a bunch, now you see I have all these elaborate filter systems and all that. I DIY, and I enjoy doing that. But you don't have to do all that crazy stuff. Now, a lot of my newer tanks, just a sponge filter powered by air. And then we get the stability out. And I read those directions to you exactly. Well, first we'll plant the tank. I'll put in a little bit of patch of moss, maybe a few patches of stem plants. You know, not too crazy. Because for me, I'm breeding shrimp and I'm sorting shrimp. I'm catching shrimp out. If I make this elaborate weave of plants and hardscape and all that, I'm going to have a hard time. Now, if you're not planning on doing like I'm doing, if you're just getting shrimp to enjoy them, go crazy. But remember, rocks can dissolve and alter your water parameters. Wood, I'm not a fan of wood really, to be honest, because those things can get treated. So like they get collected and then they spray them down with anti-mold, anti-rot stuff because they might be in some warehouse in the jungle somewhere for months. And they spray them with insecticides, spray them with anti-mold stuff. Now chances are you're probably going to be all right. But there are lots of horror stories about someone adding a piece of wood or cholla wood, boom, dead shrimp. Everything was fine until I added this stick, and oh my God, they're all dead. So you don't have to have it. So we're going over the basics. Now light. Now I didn't talk about that earlier in the video, but since we're going over starting up, you want a good enough light that can grow basic plants like moss. So any budget LED light is going to do good for you. Now I like to now on these 40-gallon tanks, I use 40-watt LEDs, and that's pretty bright. That's about as bright as you want to get. It might be a little too bright, because if you go too bright, you start getting algae problems. But like your typical 18 to 22-watt light for I don't know. I don't even know what budget lights are. Maybe 15, 20 watts for 20-gallon tank, maybe. I think that'll do. You don't want too bright, but you do need to have, because plants growing is healthy. Plants growing uses up nitrates and stuff like that. Let's see, the next on the list is if you're shrimp, you don't want to get ate. So that part's pretty self-explanatory. Don't have fish and they'll eat your shrimp. Natural habitat, again, I kind of touched on that before. With the plants, surface area, naturalness, it's not dirty. It's called, let's see, what's the word I'm trying to called? Strategically neglect. Strategic neglect. So it's not really neglect. So you see algae in these tanks, you see mold, you see everything looks like a mess sometimes. But that's the naturalness of it. It is called not getting in there and effing it up. Shrimp like stability. They don't want you in there messing around with every little thing. Set it up and leave it alone. It's not neglect. It's called keeping it the same. Only getting in there when it's like, this is a mess. I can't deal with it anymore. So I got to do something. Other than that, I leave it be. You don't have to be messing with every little thing. I think that's what a lot of people do. Now, for me, it helps that I have all these different tanks, and so I don't have time to always be. But if you just have one little 10-gallon tank, you're gonna be sitting there staring at it, wanting to do this, wanting to do that, wanting to do this, wanting to do that. You know, I know you think you're helping, and you want everything to be perfect. Just let it go. If they're not dying, there's nothing to worry about. I mean it. I mean it. If your filter's running, your light's running, keep your light on for like 8 hours a day, by the way. I think I forgot to say that. And then their maintenance. Your maintenance depends on how you want to keep your tank. You want to breed tons and tons like I do. You're going to throw in a lot of high caloric, dense food, and you're going to do a lot of water changes. If you don't want to do a lot, if you're not worried about breeding tons and tons of them, and you just want to have a little tank to enjoy, go ahead and drop one little low protein pellet in there once a week, and just watch shrimp be shrimp, and not worry about all the hassle and trouble. You want lots of shrimp means lots of work, so keep that in mind. All right, I hope I said some helpful things in here to help people out. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.